Just over a week, the first voter registration weekend for next year's provincial and national elections will open up. The 2024 poll, which will be held sometime between May and August next year, will be hotly contested, with a number of research surveys predicting the ANC may for the first time fall below the 50% support mark. Now, the right for all to vote in South Africa was a very hard fought for goal. It saw many people sacrificing their lives in the name of freedom and democracy. Next year will mark 30 years since that freedom was won. So let's get the details on how you can participate and how you can register. I'm joined by Mawethu Mosery, Deputy Chief Electoral Officer at the Independent Electoral Commission. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Is everything in place for next weekend's registration weekend?
Good evening, Sally, and good evening to your viewers. Indeed, our preparations for next week's registration weekend in about 23,296 venues is in place. We have finalized the venues themselves. We have finalized personnel that will assist us at these venues. We have finalized our technologies that we will use throughout the registration weekend. And we did do also a test on whether they will hold up to the influx of voters who may visit voting stations. And obviously, we still have our online application for those who are unable to go to the voting stations to register online. So we are ready for next week, and we will share more details in the week building up to the weekend, Sally.
So for those who've just turned 18 and are going to be registering for the very first time, whether they choose to do it online or wait for this next weekend, registration weekend, what do they need to know? What must they bring with them? How do they know where to go?
We have to say to all the youngsters in the country, those who are 16, those who are 17, particularly those who are 17, whose birthdays may be before the end of August in 2024, need to be on the voters' roll and be registered. And to register as a voter, you need your ID. It could be your smart card ID, your old green barcoded ID, or a temporary identification certificate, which is issued by Home Affairs, but it must still be valid because it has a 3 months validity. You can register with those documents and be on the voters' roll. There's no requirement for proof of address, but you have to give us your address. If there's no address, you give us a description of your residence, or we will locate it using our satellite address location mechanisms.
Does it matter where you register? Can you register in one province and vote in another on the day, for example?
Registration as a voter and where you appear on the voters' roll is aligned to where you reside as a voter. So if you present yourself at a different venue, but you give us an address of your home, of your residence, we will include your name on the voters' roll according to your address of residence. So in that way, even if you were to appear in Johannesburg, but you give us an address of Benoni, we will locate you in the voters' roll of Benoni. So on voting day, do not come to Johannesburg, go to your home address in Benoni. That's very important. That's why we encourage voters to register where they reside. And that's why we will open all of these venues, because it makes it easy for you as a voter to remember the venue where you went to register.
What about
and you go back there.
What about people who are overseas? There are a lot of expats living in various countries. Can they now currently access the online registration to set up their vote for next year's poll?
We actually are finalizing our planning to prepare for our overseas compatriots, and the preparation we are making, one, is that we will open all the missions or our diplomatic missions as South Africa as registration points, and two, we will during that period also give them access to an online voter registration app that is aligned with where they locate all over the world, because your location in terms of the country where you are currently is important. So that application is certainly different from the one we are using here at home.
It's tailored for expats. Talk to me about how many people have already registered online for next year's poll.
We have seen just about 1.8 million people using the online registration. Most of them were updating their addresses, and others were changing some of the details that had been captured incorrectly, but all of that had to do with the address that is incomplete or incorrect numbers. So all of those fixes people have been doing with the online application. But we have seen over 100,000 new young voters who have never voted using the online application to register as voters.
Yeah, and that is very encouraging, because we know that we're a young country and we need young people to vote in next year's poll. It's really important that they understand how crucial it is. I would imagine young people tend to be more tech savvy. Hopefully they take more advantage of that online portal. Thank you so much for that update, and good luck for next weekend's voter registration, the in-person registration. That's Mawethu Mosery, Deputy Chief Electoral Officer at the Independent Electoral Commission.